All right, scholars, this is our listen and respond for the week of March 2nd. So go ahead and make sure your date is on the top. It's either the 2nd or the 3rd, depending on when your group is doing this. Or maybe it's the 4th or the 5th. Whatever, just write the date at the top. You're going to write your title here. So let's look at our book. Last Stop on Market Street. So go ahead and fill in that title. Make sure you capitalize it because it is a title and it does need to be capitalized. All right. Whoops. There. Okay. Our next step, we need to read our instructions, and it says, as college-ready readers, we always use college-ready sentences. We always support our ideas with evidence from the text. The next thing we need to do is preview. Readers always collect clues before they get started reading. Look at the front and back covers of the book before you start reading or listening to the story. Fill in the chart below. So it says, what do you think the book is going to be about? Why do you think this? I think this book will be about blank. I think this because blank. Another thing I think this book might be about is blank. I think this because blank. Please notice that there are two options for answers here. That means you're coming up with two answers, not two of the same answers. It says another thing, which means something different. Too many of us are just writing the same exact answer on both lines, and that's not okay. I want you to think of two different options of what it might be about based off of what you see on the cover. Then you're going to back that up with either whatever you see on the cover, whatever you read on the back, or whatever you know in your own brain about whatever you see on the cover. You just need to connect them two together. So make sure that it makes sense. I see people riding a bus, so I think this book might be about buses because I know buses make stops in neighborhoods because I see the bus do that in our neighborhood, right? You wouldn't say, I think this might be about buses because I went to the store. No, that's not why you think it might be about a bus. You go to the store, yes, but that's not why you think it might be about a bus. So make sure that your reasoning matches here. So let's look at the cover. And this thing is not able to get the whole picture in here. All right, so last stop on Market Street. I see a bus. It looks like a mom and a little boy. And there's a bus stop, and there's a bunch of different people on the bus. On the back, it says, CJ and his grandma take a bus ride together, discovering the beauty and wonder of their vibrant neighborhood. And then it's got all the people on the bus. All right, so here you are making a prediction about what you think that this book might be about without even reading it. I think this book will be about riding the bus. I think this because I see it on the front cover. Boom. Okay, now I wrote that I think this will be about riding the bus. You can have this one and this blank, that's fine. But down here, you need to come up with something different that this story might be about and why you think this. So make sure you get that filled in. Characters and setting. Readers know that understanding the characters and setting of a story will help them to better understand what is going on in the story. List characters from the story here, and then what do you know about them? Their inner or outer traits. That's what I would write here to help me remember inner and outer traits. If you need to look at your notes, you definitely can. Remember that inner traits are on the inside. You have to do actions to know what they're talking about. Outer traits are on the outside. You can look at someone and tell. So you at least need to have two for each person that you put in here. And if there are 3 characters, you need to have 3 characters listed. Don't just put 2. Make sure that you're following the instructions. I would hate for you to miss points just because you chose not to fill something in. The next part says, what is the setting of the story? The setting of the story is blank. Remember, the setting is where the story takes place. You don't have to write this. I'm just trying to write it to give you guys an idea. Remember that the setting is where the story takes place. It is a location. If you cannot go to whatever your answer is here, then it's wrong because it's not a location. It needs to be a place. How does the setting match what is happening with the characters? The setting matches what is happening with the characters because blank. So think about why did they pick whatever you wrote here to be the setting? Why does it go with what's happening with the characters? Does it make sense? Think about If the characters were a whale and a shark, would it make sense that they were at the park? No, not so much, because a whale and a shark need to be in the ocean. That's where they live. It would make sense that their setting was an ocean because that's where whales and sharks live at. So let's go ahead and get started reading so that we're ready to fill in our story. Last stop on Market Street. You may have read this before. It's okay if you have. It's not a big deal. We'll just read it again and move on with our day. All right. CJ pushed through the church door, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus and all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but he never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain patter against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do we need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis, who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the doors swung open. All right, so I'm going to pause here because I think we have a couple of our characters that we can fill in. For sure, I know CJ, and for sure, I know CJ's grandma. And then you guys can come up with this third person, whoever you see hanging out that you think is important. And then I want you to come up with your traits for each person this time. So whoever, describe your person. What do you know about CJ? What do you know about grandma? And then what do you know about whoever you write here? Then you're coming up with the setting and why it matches. Then our next thing that we need to worry about is making a prediction. A prediction is when readers guess what might happen next in the story. So we'll do that one in just a minute. So let's keep reading and see what happens next. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear and placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and said, "Good afternoon." She made sure CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and stopped, lurched forward and stopped. Nana hummed as she knit. "How come we always got to go here after church?" CJ said. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "I feel sorry for those boys," she told him. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the Sunglass Man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side, watched a group of boys hop curbs on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their noses, too," the man said, sniffing at the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. Two older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood him back. "Sure wish I had one of those," he said. Nana sat down her knitting. "What for? You got the real live thing sitting right across from you. Why don't you ask the man if he'll play us a song?" CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. "To feel the magic of music," the blind man whispered, "I like to close my eyes." Nana closed hers too. So did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over the crashing waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky. He saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full, and he was lost in the sound, and the sound gave him the feeling of magic. The song ended, and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in the back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. Last stop on Market Street, Mr. Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors, graffiti tagged windows and boarded up stores. He reached for his Nana's hand. How come it's always so dirty over here? She smiled and pointed to the sky. Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful. So I am going to pause here. Let's make a prediction. Where do we think that CJ and his Nana are going? Make a prediction. What do you think might happen next? Something I think might happen next is CJ and Nana are going to the store because it's the Market Street, right? So CJ and Nana are going shopping. I think this because the name of the stop. Oh my gosh, stop doing that. The name of the stop is Market Street. And that means maybe there's a market on the street. So you can have this one, but then I want you to come up with a different one for here. Remember, it says another thing, which implies that it's something different from number one. So tell me the thing that you think might happen next, and why do you think this? Make sure that your reason for thinking it matches whatever that thing is. So you're not like just randomly saying words over here. You need to make it match. So why did I think CJ and Nana are going to go shopping at the market? Because the name of the street is Market Street. So it tells me that there's probably a market on that street. So you see how it matches with what I'm saying as what I think will happen next? Yours needs to do that as well. Then we're going to go to this part that says visualize. Readers always think about how this story might look in their heads. Readers make a mind movie about what they are reading, and they see the story in their brains. So, what do you think this part of the story might look like? I'm imagining the part in the story where blank is happening. I'm imagining it looks like blank. 3 things to describe this are blank, blank, and blank. Why do you think this? I think this part looks like this because blank. So, I need to point out that this answer right here for number 1 is going to be the same on everybody's paper. I am noticing a lot of us are just writing whatever they want to here, and that's not what we do here. You need to make sure that you are copying exactly what I write in this blank. That way our answers are all pretty similar, and it kind of helps me understand if you know how to do this or not. So the first answer needs to match. Everybody's needs to be the same. So I'm imagining the part in the story where CJ is, what does it say? Let's look back at the story. It says, and in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. So right here on this page, that's what it says. So I want you to imagine what this looks like in your brain, because is CJ actually being lifted out of the bus? No, he is not. He is thinking this in his brain, and he is imagining it and visualizing, which is what I want you guys to do as well. So let's describe what he sees when he visualizes. So CJ is lifted from the bus by the music. So everybody's needs to match mine. If you need to pause it, rewind it, whatever you need to do, you need to copy this down. I'm going to spell it for you. CJ is I-S, lifted, L-I-F-T-E-D, from F-R-O-M-the-T-H-E, bus, B-U-S, by, B-Y, the, T-H-E, music, M-U-S-I-C. So make sure you get that copied down. And now our paper says, I am imagining the part in the story where CJ is lifted from the bus by the music is happening. I'm imagining it looks like blank. Here you're going to do your one-word description. So I'm going to write out to the side one word. You don't have to write that. I'm just writing it to help you remember that one word goes on this blank. This is where you can say, oh, it looked weird, it looked cool, it looked scary, it looked fun, it looked sad, it looked happy. Whatever you think it looked like, this line is where you can put your one-word description. So make sure that you fill that in. A lot of us are skipping that one for some reason. Down here, you're giving me 3 things to describe what you see. So describe means to tell about. So when I tell you to describe, I want you to tell me what you see in that moment. Don't just say they're happy. What do you see that lets you know that they're feeling happy? Oh, they're laughing. Oh, they're smiling. They're doing maybe they're hugging. Maybe they're doing something else that makes them happy. What do you see that lets you know that they are feeling happy? I don't want you to just say that they're happy. I want you to show me and tell me about it. Describe it. So, for example, I'm going to say that there are brightly colored butterflies flying under the moon. You can have that if you want as your first example. Now, you know what you're thinking in your brain. Brightly colored butterflies. Oh, so I see butterflies and they have lots of different colors. What are they doing? They're flying. They're flying by the moon. So now I have an image in my brain of what's happening. I can see it. I don't just see, oh, he's happy. Okay, that's great. How come he's happy? What does he see? What's happening that he's happy? So do you see what I'm telling you? You're describing what you see. Then you are going to come up with 2 separate ones for the bottom 2 lines. Over here, you're telling me why you think it looks like this. I think this part looks like this because blank. Well, don't just tell me because it said so in the story. Duh. Yes, I'm aware. Thank you for that insight. Like, I want you to be able to pick out what from the story gave you this idea. If you want to, you can copy the exact words from the story, but make sure you use quotation marks around the words that you copy. So like for like example, you would say, I know this because it says that CJ saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. So you could write that as your example for this one, number 1. What else? But you would put it in, if you wrote it exactly the same way, you would have to put it in quotes. Because you can't just write it without the quotation marks because that's basically stealing. It's plagiarizing. When you put the quotation marks, which are these little lines, that shows that you're taking someone else's words and it's giving them credit for having said those words. So if you want to use evidence from the story, and that's how we do it. We do not just say it's in the book. Yes, it is in the book, but I want more than that. I want you to either take from your own life, your own knowledge, how you got here, or take the actual words from the book and say, I know this looks like this because in the book it said blah, 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 blah. That's why I know that they saw this. Does that make sense? If not, please raise your hand and we can help you to understand it better. So let's keep reading to see what happens next and see if our predictions were correct. Oops, we were on this page. We were on. All right. CJ saw the perfect rainbow arcing over their soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful where he never even thought to look. So there's the rainbow arcing over the soup kitchen. He looked all around them again, at the bus rounding the corner out of sight, at the broken street lamp still lit up bright, and the stray cat shadows moving across the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, I'm glad we came. He thought his Nana might laugh her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, Me too, CJ. Now come on. So it looks like Nana and CJ were riding the bus to go and help out at the soup kitchen. A soup kitchen, in case we don't know, is like a place where homeless people can go and get food and, you know, sit down and rest. So sometimes people volunteer there to help people who are less fortunate than them. So let's go ahead and summarize. Readers, think about the most important parts of a book. In your own words, give me a summary of the story you just listened to. The story blank talks about blank. In the beginning of the story, blank happens. In the middle of the story, blank happens. And at the end of the story, blank happens. So notice I didn't read these parts that were in parentheses. That's because parentheses are usually meant as like a note to the reader. They're not usually read aloud. In this case, these parentheses are telling me what needs to go on the blanks that are in front of them. So, title of the story, The Last Stop on Market Street, goes in this blank. And then the characters go here. So whatever the 3 characters you had here, make sure you write those down. So CJ, Nana, and whoever else that you filled in. In the beginning of the story, what's the most important thing that's going on in the beginning? In the middle, what's the most important thing? At the end, what's the most important thing? Then down here, you're filling in the blog. Again, some of us are just choosing not to do this. From now on, I will take off 5 points if you do not type this up. If you need help, please raise your hand. I'm getting a little frustrated that some people are not even choosing to answer this question. So if you don't type this up on your Google Classroom, you will lose 5 points. So I'm going to write that here on the side. If you don't do it, you're getting -5. So make sure it gets done. The way that you do this, you open up Google Classroom for your group color, and at the top of, like, wherever it, just when it opens up, there's like a line at the top and it says write something or say something. If you click there, you can go ahead and start typing there. You're picking either this one or this one. You're not doing both, so you just pick which one you would like to do. If you choose making connections, you're thinking about ways that the book is similar to your own life. You're going to title the post, Making Connections to The Last Stop on Market Street. Then you're going to connect to the book. Did this remind you of something that's happened in your own life, and something that you've read in a book, and something that you saw in a movie? And don't just say, this reminded me of my sister. That's great. How? Why? What part of the book reminded you of what part of your sister's life? So you're going to say, Making Connections to The Last Stop on Market Street reminded me of when blah, blah, blah in my own life happened, because in the book, blah, blah, blah happened, and those things are similar. Do you see how I did that? You're taking the thing from your life and the thing from the book, and you're explaining how they are the same. So make sure that you follow all those steps to get this one correct. If you don't have any connections, you can do story continued. The way that you're going to do this one is you're going to think about what might happen next if this book were to keep going. If it didn't end here, like at the end, what would happen next? You would title the post, The Last Stop on Market Street Continued, and then you're going to write about something that happens next. But again, make sure that it's not something that happened already. Don't just say, oh, they're going to ride the bus home. Yes, they probably will, but what else might they do? Something that's more important or more interesting than just getting on the bus. Also, they've already ridden a bus, so where else are you going to take it? So make sure that you're following those steps correctly. Again, if you need help with any of this, please raise your hand. When you finish this, make sure your name is at the top and turn it in. Then you can finish up your word work for this week. If you're finished with everything, you can be on Lexia or IXL.